Hi, chat. Good evening. Hello. Welcome to the Thursday night show. It's Thursday night, so you know what? I thought, hey, let's have a show tonight. Why not? Why not? It's a good idea. And my bestest co-host in the world is just like, you're on your own, fat man. So, bye, Clyde. He comes back around the corner like, you really could just gonna tell me bye? It's like, yes, you're just walking away. Come here, bud. He's sleepy. I don't know. We'll have to get him in later. Yeah, this week really did fly by. This week did fly by very much. My co-host, yes, Clyde. Hold on, let's see if he wants to join me. Buddy, come here. He's not. All right, so it is time. We got a lot tonight, guys. Got a lot of different things to get to. This is actually kind of like a funner night and overall good news night. And then tomorrow night, on top of that, at about 9:30 or so, Ryan Mullally and I, Ryan Mullally from Natural Law, Ryan Mullally, we are going to go live and kind of talk about the Supreme Court ruling that came out, where these lawless district court judges are just getting bitch slapped. They're getting the good old McMahon bitch slap. The Seventh Circuit bitch slapped some judges regarding how Trump could do things. I mean, there were a lot of L's lately for Trump legally, but there have been some big fucking dubs. We're going to get to those tomorrow night, 9:30, just so you guys are aware. We're going to catch up on Corey Richins, same time as normal, about 6:30, 7 o'clock. We've only got like a couple hours left in that, so I'm not really too worried about it. But we will catch up on that. So, Torgo says, what about the Hamani oral argument? I don't know what you mean by that, Torgo. The Hamani oral arguments. Are you talking about the guy with the gun case and the drugs? We'll do that one another time. I'm not sure when we'll do that one. So I think that's what you're talking about. I think that's what you're getting at. You got your felted sauce? Yeah, I got some too, Chad. If you guys weren't aware last night, from Katie got me this. It's not bad. It's just you got to be ready for it. Like, I tried it with some things and I was not ready for it so far. So, but yes, we got some updates on some things. And yeah, that's kind of it tonight. So, guys, we are live tonight on Twitter. We are live tonight on Kick. And also, guys, last but not least, YouTube here. So, yeah, we'll get to that one, Torgo. We'll get to that. Kurt got a copy of the Lolcout book, as did I, chat. And I guess I will PR that because it did come to me from the author himself. Well, yeah, Wrestler Town, we opened them last night. I was told to open everything last night, so I did. We have from Luther Morgan. It is the Book of Lolcows. He gave me a nice little letter in it. I'll take a look and read through it. I do like the cover. It's a very simple cover, but it's very attention-grabbing, I think. I just think, yeah, the way he phrases it, the internet's never-ending tragedies. Pretty much. And I remember when he asked me about, like, I'm writing a book on this. And I'm like, you can write a book that never ends, man. You're going to have to do, like, for some of these people, you're going to have to do, like, monthly updates. It's going to be like a magazine. Oh. So we'll definitely cover that. But anyways, thank you, Mr. Morgan. I will take a look at it and read it. Kill Billy says, hey, Sean, the Israel ball watching stream you did with that moron who couldn't pronounce nuclear last night or the other night was a disgrace. I mean, like, I'm not looking forward to it, but in the meantime, I'm going to okay, this is cool. I'm not going to go, oh my God, we're just war criming our way everywhere. This is so bad and horrible. I'm like, that's pretty base to see happen. Like, at some point. Yes, do I wish he not did it? Yes, but we're already there, so I don't know what we're going to do. So, just saying. Yeah, that's the thing. On one hand, Iran might have a chance at unfucking itself. On the other hand, like, yes, everything's falling apart. So, just saying here. War crime sounds like loser talk. Well, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to all that stuff. So how many people we got here? We got a lot. Let's get started. It's time. 5 minutes in. It's time to roll. The Strait of America. Anyone? Yes, rename the Strait of Hormuz. Well, guys, we'll get to the whole war crime thing and why it's not. But let's get started. I guess we'll start off on a kind of like it, this is a note of a prosecutor on Fani Willis's team. And this is the guy here. His name's Will Wooten. He is, working with Nathan Wade on the Trump prosecutions. And guess what? He's going to run for judge. I'm sure people are going to be thrilled with his ass at this point. So, yeah. Good for him. Good luck. Oh, Jack. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be what we're really, really going to get into on this one. And then moving on to a more important topic here. And this is something, it's a question we've been dealing with for a very, 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 very long time. And it is the saga, the never-ending story, really, if you would think about it that way. It's a never-ending saga of, I mean, how else do you phrase it? But it is the two gayest men in Minnesota. The two gayest men in Minnesota. It's like a gay man's Vietnam. They're just right at each other. Not backing down. The saga of Aaron Imholte and Nicholas Robert Rekieta, chat. Yes, we have some updates. Also Patrick Melton, but he's kind of the side character in this. He's the side character in all of this. So what do we know here? Thanks to Minnesota Public Records for this. Was it MN Public Records? Yes, thank you to MN Public Records. Posted yesterday. Although they've already kind of alluded to this stuff out here. There is a settlement conference April 13th at 1:30 p.m. And from the way it's been talked about, if they can't come to an agreement, it's going. They're going to send it. And they're going to run a fucking hearing. So Aaron and Nick, oh buddy, that day. And then also for Aaron Imholt and for a minor child. It's always funny to see it that way. It's funny to see it this way. April 13th, which is the day after Hackamania is over. Although I think by Sunday it's over. But that Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing that Hackamania is all about, it's literally the day after. So have fun. And apparently Patrick Melton has been told he has to appear in person. So he's going to have to fly out. So there you go. Anyways, that is being set. And yeah. What is Hackamania? It's the thing the Dabbleverse or Hackverse. It's where they all get together and have a big retard convention. I mean, really. It's that thing that Nick drugged a refrigerator to halfway across the country. Like a tard. So. That is April 13th, chat. Mark it down on your calendars. All right, we need to change. I need to set some of this around. There we go. All right. We'll get to the first breaking, and we'll get to the first big story of the night. Styxhexenhammer, guys. That's right, Styxhexenhammer. If you've ever seen him before, he is the pirate libertarian or the libertarian pirate. I'm not really sure how you'd phrase him, but he is the one that when he got arrested, the farm or Kino Casino showed him getting arrested with his fucking pirate hat on and just being a complete like. This is Styxhexenhammer. If you've never seen him before, chat. He is just a fucking goober of the highest order here. And here he is.
I just had a case dismissed for violation.
And yes, he wears a pirate hat and a leather coat, and he wears it all around all the time. Yes, he's also like a vampire, too. He's like a psychic vampire or something.
And who did I assault?
I'm sorry. They just dismissed his case yesterday.
They just dismissed my case. I was in court yesterday. They dismissed my case.
Oh, right now.
I am not. Okay.
And Samantha Keister is the complainant.
I don't think that there is. Yes, please do record this.
Hey, sir.
Anyways, that's him wearing his pirate hat on, being a complete lunatic. So anyway, Styx had a court date recently, and courtesy of the information provided by, I didn't know he would have time for this. Gabe Hoffman, like Israel is in the middle of this massive operation against Iran. They're trying to kill the Ayatollahs. They're fighting the government, the Iranian government. And Gabe Hoffman's like telling his Mossad bros, wait a second, guys. I got to work on this for a minute. So, we get a warrant status out there for Tarl Warwick, also known as Styxhexenhammer 666. And yes, courtesy of Gabe Hoffman here. We see this here now. Styx is on the run. He has assault, basically looks like an aggravated domestic, so basically kind of like a domestic violence here. First degree with a weapon, reckless endangerment, and violating conditions of release, which I think is still a wild thing. That's an offense on its own, but some places do that. We saw that with the Wisconsin court cases. They call it bail jumping. But anyways, he's got a felony, chat. So the interesting thing here is to any law enforcement officer of the state of Vermont, nor like in Ohio, if you have a felony warrant, that goes capious. That's nationwide. So I am surprised it's only in Vermont here, but they have to arrest him and bring him back without unnecessary delay before the nearest available judicial officer. And regardless of whether he's held a release, you shall issue the defendant a citation to appear at the issuing court the next business day at 12:30 and get all this done from yesterday. So Styx is on the run. Styx is on the lam. And I don't know how it's going to work for him because he's been running around with a machete and shit. It's like these things can end very poorly if he really is suicide baiting like he's been commenting on. That's going to be an issue for him. It's going to be an issue. Elliot Johnson's a $2,500 bond. That's actually not too unreasonable. That's pretty kind of like basic. But for right now, that's his bail. But I'm sure it'll get raised if he gets caught. So, yes, he's heading for Tortuga. Oh, the body cam footage is going to be hilarious. Yes, when I hope they don't kill him. And I hope he doesn't want to die. But he could easily suicide by cop, and I hope he doesn't do it. Quicksilver says, Stolus! What's his pound of flesh? Yes. Winter Soldier says, actually, it's a cutlass. A vampire does not soil his hands with a machete. So, Joe's motion OD Branch's machete. No, when the cops arrested him, one of the multiple times, he had his machete on him. Like he's carrying around his machete in a scabbard, like he's a fucking pirate and it's his cutlass. Like, avast thee! Like, that's really him. That's really him. And although, like, if he's gonna fight, well, I mean, most sailors and pirates were not trained in sword fighting. officers would have some classical training in fencing, but it's not like he's cutting a fucking mire square with this shit anytime soon. So, anyways, good luck, Styx. I don't know how long it's gonna hold out for you. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but we'll see. We will see. Oh. Now, I know this one's actually kind of a moving on to some things here. This is a bit of a sag. Hold on, what did this say? Kill Billy says he's got chain shot in his land boat. He's traveling. Yes. So, what was the appeal of Styx? Well, Styx's initial appeal was he was kind of like this uber libertarian type, like back in 2017, when like the Beam War was raging, like when Sargon, it was like him, Sargon, like all those guys, they were the top of the pops. Like they were at the top of the charts and they were living like kings. And Styx was like this uber libertarian. He was living off in like fucking Holland or the Netherlands at some point. And then he just became a real complete fucking goober. So, yes. Scorber says your beard is cool. Well, are you talking about me or are you being sarcastic to Styx? I'm not sure. Thank you. I try to trim it up. HIV1 says Jesus today is a blast from the past. Yes. Yes, Stefan Molyneux. Yes, God, he was so fucking. He was on fire back in the day, man. That guy was like just, yeah. Shinobubu says Styx is not a libertarian. He's a LARPer. Most libertarians are LARPers. That's why they're called lolberts. Most libertarians are LARPers. Like, it's hard to be a real libertarian. Just like it's hard to be a real communist. You can't really do it. Yes, and now Styx is dental. Oh, no. His dental record is more British than Sargon's. Yes. Yes. You love my wings? I trimmed those. They're gone. They're gone. See? They trimmed it all off. Yeah, he predicted 2016 pretty well. Yes, this is what all libertarians say when a libertarian makes them look bad. Yes. So. Yes. Marlene. Oh, Marlene knows some of the lore. Then he tried to domesticate with a woman and cats in a garden, and it went downhill from there. Well, that's true. Bama Law, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Says, I have to be up at 4:30, so bid y'all adieu for work. I am now a federal prosecutor, and my R is very, very cold. Ice cold law. Well, hey, congrats on the job, dude. Fuck yeah. So congrats. Take care, man. Enjoy your night. So, yes, you are now a glowy. Yes. Yes. Jassidu says, what happened with Styx? He basically is bench warrant right now. So, good luck to him. Good luck to him. Yes, Styx peaked with his Netherlands arc. Shame he fumbled the life most guys would give anything for. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So anyway, guys, moving on from there. Enough about Styx. Just a couple little interesting things have happened here. And this is actually from Ag, kind of brought to my attention. Thank you for that, Ag. Remember a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago now, the British airbase at Cyprus is being attacked by a bunch of you guys can't see this, but it's like the British airbase at Cyprus is being attacked by the Persians. It's like we're going back to fucking antiquity, chat. The last time the Persians were attacking Cyprus is like way back in the fucking 2,500 years ago. Anyway. Remember we talked about this case where the husband and wife and daughter all went to Disneyland. They went to one of the restaurants and the woman said, hey, I've got a ton of allergies. Please don't send out a certain kind of food. It will kill me. And she talked with the chef and they promised to do it right. And they made the food with whatever it was going to kill her. And she died. Husband sues for wrongful death. And Disney at the time said, because you have Disney Plus on your remote control. when you got your TV, you cited arbitration agreement for any and all claims. And they try to argue you could use that agreement for arbitrating a wrongful death lawsuit. Yeah, did it kill her? Yes, it killed her. And so they went to court and said, nope, Your Honor, they can't sue us. Well, there's a settlement to that case. To be fair, guys, just so you're aware, the court did say at some point, I forget when it was, I think we covered it. The court said to Disney, get the fuck out of here with that. You are high. So that lost, but now it's over. Now it's over. There was a settlement in that case. There's a claim and a potential settlement, which means there was a settlement, but Disney's probably NDA'd the shit out of it. So there's gonna be something paid here. So anyway, his wife died from an allergy attack, but they dropped their claims and suggested a settlement was reached, and it probably was. But yeah, his wife had an anaphylactic shock after she ate food at a Disney restaurant. But even the guy's attorney couldn't confirm a settlement was reached because, the way they did it, he says, I have no comment other than to say this matter has been resolved. Whoa. That's rough. But remember, this is they got famous for asking about the Disney Plus arbitration agreement. But then, yeah, Disney walked that back. And the court's like, yeah, we're not fucking doing that. So it could have settled probably for millions because the lady was a doctor and she had a long life ahead of her. But yeah, the settlement terms are going to be completely confidential. The attorneys, they were quoting on this. It's like a high 7-figure to low 8-figure range. So hopefully it's a multi-million-dollar settlement. And, remember, the attorneys get 30% of that. So everybody wins. Everybody wins on this one. Yes, it's true. It's a vacation they will never forget. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. That's rough. Dude got a free Disney cruise and a VIP trip to Disneyland. Yes, we'll throw in 2 tickets. We'll let you bring the kid as well. They're like, look, sir, we'll give you the drink package as well. Yes, taking on the House of Mouse. There is an entire Disney's litigation capabilities are fucking insane. They litigate copyright and trademark like a motherfucker. Even tort injury stuff, they are brutal to deal with. They have a reputation for that. They're worse than Walmart, and Walmart's considered one of the worst to deal with. So anyways, that's where she ate. And it's like, yeah, there you go. So, anyways, it was just a wrongful death. It was a wrongful death lawsuit. And, she's a 42-year-old doctor. She had a long life ahead of her of doing things. And that's how you establish somebody's worth. It's how you establish someone's worth. In these types of cases, the lady dies. Okay, well, what was she doing with her life? Because I had a case like this once where the lady got hit by a semi-truck. She was walking on the road and the semi-truck ran her over. And yeah, the truck was in the wrong, but she was a drug addict. And she probably wasn't going to last another year. She wasn't going to be this was back in 2016. Nobody was expecting her to be alive 10 years later. So what was her life worth? $100,000. This woman's life, a doctor, she's, educated. She's got a lot ahead of her. Hers goes a lot higher. So that's just the reality situation. It's a reality situation. So can't Disney legally build their own nuclear reactor? I think so. That's something I would have to ask Google Mindset. But I think for a long time, yes. But I think since Disney had tried to fuck with DeSantis, the legislator curtailed their abilities, and they lost in court on a lot of stuff. So, yes, at one point Disney could have, but when time came, Disney decided to nuck if you buck, and Disney wanted to buck, and the state of Florida responded back. So, yeah. Reedy Creek, yes, the Reedy Creek Improvement District. Yeah. Yeah, Disney lost control of anything. Okay, yeah, they lost all that ability. That's what I thought. They really got fucked hard. So, Zero Fuck says, Disney, good to see you again, man. Also, thank you for being here. Disney built a 6-point pentagram, putting dollars at every point. Shekels will work too, and these summon the lawyers from the tunnels under Manhattan. The attorneys that got involved in this, oh yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. They're actually Jewish lawyers. Well, I'm sure they were the finest. I'm sure it was Shlomo Steen. The most Jewiest of lawyers. Even Joe would be like, wow. Even Joe would be like, wow, those guys are very Jewish. No. How you doing, man? Hope your school's going well out there. Says, Your Honor, she may have been a doctor, but if anything, Disney saved this man from race mixing. I think they already had a kid, so it's like, suffer. Your Honor, this kept all race white. To quote the great Nicholas Fuentes. Oh, Alyssa Marie says, Hoy vey. Yes. Their lawyers don't work on Saturday, but dictate their Shabbos to the Shabbos paralegals. Oh my God, that's so funny. Anyways, that was kind of it's an interesting resolution of some stuff we were looking at there. We also, where is the other thing? This is an interesting thing that I did see. We're going to go through this. This is actually this is a court opinion out of Nevada, and I forget who sent me the link to this. Kick says, sup. How you doing? This is very interesting. This is out of Nevada or Nevada or Nevada. Remember, chat, if you're in Toledo, Ohio, this is pronounced Nevada. But it's Nevada or Nevada. I don't know, however you want to pronounce it. But there you go. Nevada. This is an interesting case. It's in their Supreme Court. And somebody sent this to me, and I looked it up. This is actually pretty crazy. So it's Damian Mars Sylvanus versus the state of Nevada. So check this out. This is an appeal from a judgment of conviction pursuant to a jury trial. So here's what happened. He got guilty but mentally ill on a charge of evading and eluding or failing to stop. Basically, he flew off on the cops. Zexarian says, what about Sylvania, Ohio? Well, Sylvania, Nevada doesn't go out there. Nevada's on the east side. Nevada is on the east side of town and goes into Oregon. So they don't have, I think they call it Nevada even in Sylvania, but Nevada doesn't go out there. So anyways, it's interesting what happens here. So his judgment is affirmed, but listen to this. Listen to what happened here. So a jury found this guy guilty but mentally ill. And this is a lesser form of insanity. Not every state does this. Sometimes guilty by mental disease or defect, but not insane. A lot of states don't do this, but a lot of I'd say there's a significant enough number that do. Thunder Dragon, I'll get to that in a minute. Ohio really is a different country. You fucking know it, man. It's a different place. It's a place for hard people. It's a hard place for hard people. Most of you wouldn't make it here. That's okay. It's okay. So anyways, he got found not guilty. He got found guilty but mentally ill of failure to stop for the fleeing and eluding. And that's what this is. The eluding. Now, here's what else happened. The jury also found him not guilty by reason of insanity on 2 other counts in the same charging document, in the same indictment. This is where it gets weird. Because what happened? Well, the court imposed a prison sentence. And he's arguing that he was required to place him on probation and commit him directly to a mental health facility for treatment based on the NGRI acquittals. And it says, because neither state statute governing the mental health evaluation on civil commitment after an NGRI acquittal, nor the statutes governing sentencing after a GBMI conviction specify how commitment incarceration should be sequenced in cases with a split verdict. The district court retains discretion to determine the proper sentence. I don't like this. This is a rule of, even though it's not the rule of lenity that, any ambiguities or anything that which is not allowed is allowed, and then any ambiguity in statutory things should be resolved in favor of the defendant. I would argue this should have been resolved in favor of the defendant. This is so weird. This is so weird. But they're saying the district court sentenced him to serve a prison term followed by assessment at a forensic mental health facility once he is released. They said that, nor do these things strip a court of its discretion. Okay, but what actually happened here, because I'm sure some of you might say, well, how does this work? Was this a separate offense? No, it wasn't. So let's look at this. So he robbed a 76-year-old guy with a machete and stole his car. The fact that the court doesn't focus on this kind of tells what happened. When the police sought to stop him, he fled, driving on the wrong side of I-80, ran a stop sign and red lights before the police stopped him. He was not... So, this all happened as one continuing series of events, it looks like. It wasn't like they found him days later or in the other part of the state. It looks like very shortly the police found him. Yeah, carjacking a guy with a machete. What a fella. I know, but this is... So anyways, the state charged him with 3 counts. Robbery of a person over 60, which, over 60 is an enhancement. Grand larceny of a car. And driver who fled and eluded the police. So, once again, at trial, they found him NGRI on the robberies. Not guilty by reason of insanity, but guilty by mental illness on the evading count. Think about that. You're so out of your mind, the guy you carjacked and you stole from and then stealing his car. But yet minutes later, when the police find you, somehow now you're not insane. Now, it's true, though. The concept of insanity is a window that can open and close. And I think I really liked how Andrew Branca said that about self-defense. Self-defense is like a window that can open and close. And while it may be open in 1 minute, it closes in another. Or think about it like when you're at a putt-putt course and the windmill's spinning along. Sometimes you could shoot through, sometimes you're blocked. It just depends. I mean, yes, you can be insane one moment and then later on you're not insane, but over the course of this series of events, I don't see how this works. I don't see how this works here. So they point out thereafter he had to be detained pending a hearing on his mental health. The court also ordered 2 psychiatric professionals for civil commitment procedures. And it says, following the evaluations, the court held a hearing which asserted that based on the NGRI acquittals, he has to be committed to a forensic hospital, which is true. And remember, chat, we talked about this before. When you win an NGRI verdict, you get sent to the mental hospital. You get sent to the nut hut. It's not a good place. It generally is just as bad as prison, if not worse. Now, you have the opportunity to get out at some point, but you're going to be spending a significant amount of time at the mental hospital before you're even remotely eligible for this. No, I agree he still needs to be locked up. Too many choices. He should be locked up. It's just, I don't think he should be in prison. This doesn't make any sense. This jury verdict is really stupid. Yes, I want juries to act consistently. So the court said that, the statute's requiring civil commitment on the acquittals, but he had to proceed to sentencing. And they said that the sentence is consistent because he must receive treatment while he's incarcerated because he's a person with a mental illness. Okay, great. But so here's the thing. The guy got a sentence of 28 to 72 months. So he got 2.5 to 6 years, chat, for this. And then he goes into the mental hospital. So following his prison term, but before release, he has to get sent for evaluation to assess whether he has been treated and is no longer a danger to himself or others. So think about that. That is, I just think that that's not the way this should go. I don't agree with this at all. Gen X says, I worked the forensic unit at Toledo over at the Nut Hut in Toledo. It's still over by the VA, like over out on the what road is that on? But yeah, no, that's fun. I know where that is. I had to drive out there more than once to go see people. Yeah, after he's sane, he can then serve the sentence. Well, no, because we don't push people like that. I don't think that's fair. If he's really insane, but he's restored, well, then he has to come out at some point. So he should go to the asylum, but do the weekends in prison. That's funny. Now, he filed a motion to correct an illegal sentence, which, it's not an illegal sentence, but I think, this is not properly done here. They say in support of his argument, he tries to say that, he should be in a civil commitment and sent to the mental hospital. But the district court said that, nope, it goes after his sentencing. And they said, he had to go away. They point out he has since been paroled on the underlying case and has been moved to the mental hospital. They say, we perceive no problem with Muniz because it's a different jurisdictional authority which he's confined. Rather than probation still has effects on him. They point out the court's still doing it, but it's just really weird what happened there. So he got paroled out real quick. Now, presumably this guy sat in jail for a long time as this all happened. So I just thought it was very interesting how they do this here. They talk about, is this an abuse of discretion? It's like, remember, these appellate courts are like, wow, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't seem fair. You know what the appellate court does? Punt. They don't want to deal with it. So the Supreme Court in Nevada is like, we're not dealing with this. Now, here's the problems. They say like, well, there's a split verdict here. And it says the court reasoned that the legislator likely did not contemplate a split verdict with mental health complexities. But if it had, it would have allowed for a sentence that you would get treatment in prison. And, they're like, we agree. That's a cop-out because you're not going to get. Can you interview someone from this case? I wonder if I can talk to the attorneys involved in it. This is interesting. But think about the treatment you're getting in prison is not going to be good. What are you going to get at the mental hospitals? Probably not much better, but at least it's different. Remember what I told you, chat? These courts have an incentive not to do things. Yes, they wash their hands because it's easier to do it that way. But clearly there's a problem here. They say this omission, though, is understandable given that juries rarely render these split verdicts. Yeah, but the fact it happens is a problem here. This is a fucking problem. This is an absolute awful problem. He says this interpretation is consistent with how other states apply the statutes in a split verdict case. Now, they're saying, though, for example, in Michigan, they had a similar thing where the guy had first degree, he got NGRI'd for first degree murder, but mentally ill for second degree murder. So the guy had to go to prison. So he had to go commence his prison sentence, which is just ridiculous. Now, notice they say it like it's consistent with how other places do it. Well, only one place did it, and also that was like almost 30 years ago. So I don't know if that's the best answer. Now they also come back to, this is some stuff here of there is a statutory interpretation and how this works. Well, we now get to some interesting things here, because you now see how this works with a case. And you're like, wait, I see a name popping up down here. So they talk about where did I go? It just moved on me. Sorry, chat. So they point out here that, the civil commitment can't impose limitations. So they say it doesn't curtail the authority to sentence someone to prison. They say if the legislator intended otherwise, it would have written so in the statute. Now, this is originalism. This is being textual. What does it say in there? Antonin Scalia and Brian Garner. Remember, I've talked to you guys about the Brian Garner guy. He is one of the biggest legal writing people out there. If you've heard of the Blue Book, he wrote the Red Book. He writes a lot of legal writing treatises. And then Antonin Scalia, chat. Yes, that Antonin Scalia. Reading law, the interpretation of legal text. And it says, one should assume the appropriate ordinary meaning unless there's reason to think otherwise. Well, I think you should think otherwise here. I think there's a lot to figure out here. It's very confusing. This doesn't make any sense to this guy. But the appeals court fucks around and they're like, we don't want to deal with it. Now, it's interesting, though, because they cite State v. Ware. And this is actually a case like that gets cited all the time still in appellate work here in Ohio. But here the court stayed the mandatory mental health hearing following the NGRI acquittal. And what happened instead, the Court of Appeals vacated the stay and said that the statute mandated the hearing and did not permit postponement until the release from prison. And that's what happened in Ware. He got NGRI'd on some counts and convicted on other counts, and he got sent to prison. And the court's like, well, we're not having your hearing. And instead, no, you have to have the hearing. So, because you have to treat mentally ill people. So, he tries to garner support. This is, it's just interesting. And they point out, while the jury found him mentally ill, and they found that he remained mentally ill at the time of sentencing, the court can impose any sentence that it's authorized to impose on a defendant who pleads or is found guilty. And that's true. Is it in the statutory thing he could do here? Yes, then that's it. So they point out here, this just, it's absolutely nonsense here. They point out this is not, they point out the exception language does not resolve how you should proceed after a split verdict. And further, because probation is not mandatory, we affirm the judgment of conviction. So this guy spent like 2 years in prison to get to mental health hospital, which, once again, I just thought it was a very interesting way of looking at the statute and how you address the statute here. I thought it was worth looking at and kind of taking care of. What is that? Somebody messaged me a bunch of stuff here. So I just thought this was really cool. I know ultimately at the end of the day, chat, some of you might be like, oh, that was kind of boring. Yeah, a little bit, but I think these are the type of arguments that are fun. Like, how do you resolve this? And is it really just fair to say, well, the law doesn't really tell us what to do here? I mean, what's just, chat, for you? What would be just? What would be fair? It's things to think about in how you address this. And I think it's something that's critical. As members of society that you're in and you're part of the civic society, how do you want your law enforced? How do you want things done? It's something worth looking at. I think it's worth looking at. And I think it's worth something for you guys to do. A microwave, you guys can hear it chirp. I mean, the 3D printer's running right now. I got it recalibrated thanks to Fatty Catty helped me with that, but the 3D printer's running pretty hard right now. It's kind of like it's shaking like a paint shaker. So that might be the beeping you hear. Unless it's this. It's not that beeping. So what did you miss? Start the stream over? No. You missed everything. With that's it, guys. We're wrapping this up tonight. Have a great night, everybody. And remember, until next time, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Good night, chat. Just kidding. Yeah. Do you have Cloud Lifter? I don't know what that is. So, Thunder Dragon says there are reasons we have multiple examples of the law how to handle situation because stuff happened, and the judges had to make decisions that no one had not made. Yes, that's true. That's true. Joe says, how do you unsnarl that tangle when you have multiple charges of commission of the same crime, but you have one NGRI, but the others are guilty? Odd. Yeah, well, this is kind of one of those situations. It's all one ongoing thing. Like, he robbed the guy, he stole his car, and then the cops caught him. So, yeah, how do you... like? But I get what you're saying. Let's say they said NGRI on the robbery, but he was guilty of stealing the car. Honestly, you know how courts look at that a lot of times? They'll say, hey, the jury was inconsistent. Oh, well, they can be. Don't care. Juries get away with doing all kinds of retarded stuff. Cloud Lifter is for your mic. No, I do not have Cloud Lifter. I have my Razer mixer. What is Cloud Lifter? Is it like a gating thing? Oh, Cloud Lifter goes between your mic and your computer like a preamp. It will fix that low whistle we hear sometimes. SM7Bs are notorious for being quiet, so people run Cloud Lifter or preamps. I mean, yeah, is that a software thing or is that something else I have to attach? Is that hardware? Because I think technically my Razer is a preamp. Because I have the Razer Vortex mixer. So. And then, yes, Erica Thorpe for 18 months or 16 months. Thank you, Erica, for your support. Says, happy birthday, Sean. It's not my birthday for like another 5 months. But thank you for caring. Thank you for caring. So. It's a little Vox. Okay. Bring it up on screen for us. What I have? I mean, real quick, if you guys want to know, I can do that here. Hold on. Let's see here. So I have the... Well, I hope it will load up here. Yeah, I have well, here, I'll show this. Maybe this will tell you what I have. You guys can see it. Screen, share screen, window. This is what I have, chat. I just have this. I just have the Razer audio mixer. Nothing fancy. Nothing special. So, turn up your gate. I need to talk to Vielhammer. I'm going to have to fix that. I don't know what you guys are getting at with that, so we're going to have to leave that be. They aren't a scam and they're an easy fix, but not really needed with a proper setup. Okay. So I'll look into it. Thank you for your guys' thoughts. Turn on the RGBs. Yes, Phil would be. I can make him RGB. Phil would be so happy. All right. Now moving on to some other stuff, guys. We are going to. Oh, we already got that. Okay. Sorry, I gotta move stuff around. All right, shit. All right, we got a couple more things here, then we're gonna get into some serious stuff. Brazil. This is kind of interesting. This is I wasn't kind of like wondering how this was gonna work here, but Brazil is banning AI chatbots from offering election advice. Well, you're like, how's this gonna work? But yes, remember Brazil, the place that put Bolsonaro in prison. They're coming up with some interesting things here. So the rules are, things published by Brazil's Superior Electoral Court, which is the one in charge of election laws. This is kind of interesting. So chatbots and virtual assistants are barred from recommending votes, favoring candidates, or prioritizing information about specific contenders in responses to users. But how does that work? How do you govern? How does that work? How do you govern that? How is that going to, it sounds smart, but how do you do it? Now, they also point out that, what do you do about things that are generated by AI in that, you're going to have to explain, if you post content, how the content was produced and prove its authenticity. Notice that there are going to be some times of you might be forced to prove it yourself that it's authentic, which that's crazy, but okay. They're also saying that AI must be clearly identified and cannot circulate campaign material 72 hours preceding the vote or in the 24 hours following the close of polls. That's That's interesting. Yes, you did miss Styx. I'm sorry. We started off with him. Or actually, second thing in there. So, yeah, it's going to be weird. That's going to be a weird setup there. I mean, on one hand, it sounds good. But do you really want the government doing this kind of authority here? HIV wants us flat out state in the video, etc., that it's AI. But if it's right, you can't circulate it before the campaign. Right before the vote, you can't do it. This is a problem. This is a real problem here. So it's really telling you what you can and can't do. And I agree, this is really uncharted territory. But this is something where you don't have First Amendment. I think it's going to be an issue. And yeah, it's going to structurally change AI because you can't just run out separate versions of AI or put restrictors on. It's like putting a governor on Grok. It wouldn't work. So it'll be very interesting to see how this works here. It'll be very interesting. Yeah. Brazil already heavily censors Twitter. It's not a surprise at all. Yeah. Well, that's because the commies took over. But that is a very thing. The U.S. does it for porn. Yeah. And I'm still not sure that's actually legal at all either. So I'm not sure that's legal either. They should just make Marco Rubio take care of it. Oh, no, chat. All right, guys. This is actually some good news. This is actually some really good news on the Second Amendment front. We haven't had a lot of those lately. We had the Third Circuit tell Cody Wilson, that chode muncher, that computer code is not free speech. So thanks, Cody. We saw Fudbusters and Ivan and Control Pew all get sued in California by the city of San Francisco, and the courts in Florida won't save them. But we do have an interesting one here out of the District of Columbia Court of Appeals. Remember, this is federal, chat, because the District of Columbia, this is it for them. So they had a nice case here, and this is an important one. Tyree Benson versus the United States. And it's appealed for the Superior Court of the District of Columbia. So here you go. Here you go, chat. And you see who's involved in this, the United States Attorney's Office. Because remember, they're the ones in charge of prosecuting. And they go on to decide how this is all sorted here. So this is how it works. This is an appeal on the Second Amendment challenge to the district's ban on firearm magazines capable of holding more than 10 rounds of ammunition. The appellant, Tyree Benson, argues the ban contravenes the Second Amendment, so his conviction should be vacated. The U.S. says that and defend the ban's constitutionality, and now concedes this ban violates the Second Amendment. Based. The District of Columbia, which is also a party to this appeal, continues to defend the constitutionality of the ban. So they point out that magazines holding capable more than 10 rounds are ubiquitous in our country, numbering in the hundreds of millions. Yet to keep growing, chat. Accounting for about half the magazines in the hands of our citizenry. And they come standard with the most popular firearms sold in America today. And it says because... Well, Virginia's passing a mag ban. They're going to pass a straight-up assault weapons ban with no grandfathering. Virginia's going fucking retard. And yes, with their speaker of the leader of the Virginia House, who's like some guy from Bangladesh. It's like, yeah, I want a guy named fucking Saddam from Bangladesh telling me how to fucking have the laws in my state. I feel sorry for Virginia. I do. And he says, because these magazines are common and ubiquitous by law-abiding citizens across this country, we agree with Benson in that the outright ban on them violates the Second Amendment. Citing Heller, also citing Bruin. Oh, yeah. Will this help in Connecticut? No. Remember, chat, the District of Columbia's circuit, remember, D.C. has its own federal circuit. They have their own circuit court. It only applies here. But this is a case that you can use going forward if you're challenging in other places. So I feel sorry for California or Virginia, but not California. I feel sorry for California too, but like California's been fucked since like 1989. So yes, the fucking mud hutters. I agree. Therefore, we reverse. And they say, and because he could not have registered, procured a license to carry or lawfully possess ammunition for his firearm, given his equipped with a magazine capable of holding 10 rounds, we likewise reverse his convictions for possessing an unregistered firearm, carrying a pistol without a license, and unlawful possession of ammunition. Monster kill. That's base, chat. Based. Absolutely based.
Was this story based? Yes.
Yes. They say in light of our disposition, we don't reach challenging on the firearms and registration schemes, nor do we reach the Fourth Amendment challenge underlying search and seizure, because they found other grounds to address and relieve his issues. So it's all done. Yes. Yes, too many choices is right. Combo breaker. Yes, chat. The gun banners. The gun banners are just pattern playing. It's easy enough to break them. So they brought up here how this worked. So he was charged with multiple firearms offenses after they found him in possession of an unregistered semi-auto equipped with a 30-round magazine. Given his name's Tyree, I'm betting it was a Draco. Sorry, Matt. I'm betting it was a Draco. Just saying. Just saying, Chad, it probably was a Draco. They say for the uninitiated, a detachable magazine is basically a container that holds multiple rounds of ammunition. It can be inserted into a gun's receiver to load ammo. Once attached, the magazine typically feeds cartridges that it holds into the gun as it fires. Benson was indicted for possessing a large capacity ammunition feeding device, possessing an unregistered firearm, carrying a pistol without a license, and unlawful possession of ammunition. So he challenged some things here. He filed a motion to suppress, and then he also did a motion to dismiss on Second Amendment grounds. Now, ultimately, the trial court denied his suppression motion and did dismiss the indictment. So he ended up getting convicted at a bench trial on stipulated facts. Remember, chat, in federal court, you can stipulate the facts. He stipulated that, yes, this was a firearm with a 30-round magazine. And it was registered. It was unregistered. It contained ammo, and he did not have a license to carry it outside the home. So he got convicted of everything. He received suspended sentences of 1 year and was barred from ever possessing a firearm in the future because it's a felony offense. Chat. It's a felony offense for him. So we move on to the actual analysis here of things. And now I do like how this is written here. This footnote's so funny. It's like, actually, the stipulation indicated the firearm recovered, in this case, had 1 round in the chamber and 30 in the magazine. And the magazine inserted had a capacity of 31 rounds. And it's like, we read that to mean it had 30-round capacity, while the firearm independently held an additional round. As is typical. So the magazine inserted the firearm had a capacity of 31 rounds. So yes, homie had his Draco all gassed up with one in the pipe. Man, that bitch was gassed up, ready to go. Unless he had unless he's running around with, we don't hear him running around with a switchy though, because he would have charged with a machine gun federally.
Switchy. No talk. No cat. No talk.
Like I said, I don't think it was a Glock. It probably was like a Draco. So they say their analysis goes on 4 parts, but they talk about different things here. They talk about Heller, Bruin, and Rahimi. We're not going through all those. They say, second, we apply the framework to the 3 central disputes: whether magazines are arms protected by the Second Amendment, the extent to which magazines are in common use, like self-defense, and 3, whether there is any history or tradition of banning similar arms. To preview our answers to these central questions, magazines are unquestionably arms. They're uncommon for lawful purposes, but ubiquitous. And there's no history of blanket bans on arms in such common use. And it says, third, we reject the argument that because he possessed a 30-round magazine. They're like, nope, don't care. So they address stuff. We're skipping this one here, checks. We talked all this to death. We talked that all up to death. We're going to skip ahead here. We're going to skip ahead because we don't really need all that right now. We don't need all that right now. They get to Rahimi. We've talked about Rahimi as well. It's all about historical context. And notice, finally, we found a court that says magazines of all capacities are arms. Yes. Arms are weapons and the accoutrements that go with weapons. And they say are they something a person might take into their hands to use in wrath or to cast at or strike another? Yes. Or do they facilitate armed self-defense? The answer is yes. Magazines facilitate armed self-defense because it feeds excessive cartridges into the gun, and it's a particularly essential feature for semi-automatic guns, eliminating the need to manually reload until the magazine is spent and needs itself to be reloaded. Yes. And they say magazines are arms within the meaning of the Second Amendment, which once again, Bruin says, even though we saw how many times have we seen in Illinois, especially, these asshole judges say, no, that's actually not an arm. When clearly the Supreme Court in fucking Bruin, or I'm sorry, the Third Circuit here is saying clearly it is an arm. And they say it's also helpful for getting target practice in. They say these can come in handy if you need to fire a second shot. And they say this is for entertainment's sake or to improve marksmanship and ability to defend yourself. So magazines of all capacities are thus arms covered by the plain text of the Second Amendment. Now, they claim that because he didn't include any of this in his opening brief, they say that's a frivolous contention. He says they say by invoking the Second Amendment, he's quite obviously claiming his conduct's covered by it. And Benson did far more than that here. He argued in the trial court that ammunition feeding devices qualify as arms. And he reiterated in his opening brief that 11-plus round magazines are in common use for self-defense. When you guys are saying, why do I think it's a Draco? Zero Fuck says the chamber is a part of the magazine now. It's the law. Yes. At least in the northern, or at least in the DC circuit. Johan says, as one does, condition 1 is normal. Condition 1, guys, is fully gassed up, round in the chamber, safety on. That's how you should be. That's how you should be rolling. You should be rolling strapped up, chat. Yes, no cap indeed. No cap. Blue Meridoc says, your mom is an unbearable arm. Ask my dad. Depending on the day, I'm sure he would agree with you. Ask Papa Criminal. He might say that about Mama Criminal. So, the trial court's ruling also took it as a given that magazines are arms, which is kind of interesting. So the trial court already agrees. Once again, the district claims that on the merits that 11-plus round magazines by themselves are harmless and of no use. That's true. They say that magazines themselves are not arms, and they say that's not an approach to what constitutes an arm. A gun is also harmless and of no use without ammunition, but is obviously an arm. And they say that calling a magazine not an arm has a couple of glaring flaws. First, it's ignoring Bruin's clear explanation that includes instruments that facilitate self-defense. It says, secondly, it reduces things to the absurd proposition that legislators can prohibit all of the core components of firearms, the trigger, the hammer, the slide, the firing pin, the sights, etc., because none of them do much good without the others, and none of them is strictly necessary to a functioning firearm. Which is, yeah, that's actually very funny. That's very, very funny. God, they are just lighting people on fire here. They also see here Duncan v. Bonta out of the Ninth Circuit, where Judge Van Dyke, the one who played with all his guns on the table. So, yes, here we go. And they say, under that logic, basically every part of firearms is an optional component and thus not protected. And yeah, that's the problem here. And they say, the court says that some magazines might be arms, the extendos are not because no firearm requires that magazine to operate. And they say that, the Ninth Circuit already agrees, but they say it's a fatal flaw. There's a fatal flaw. Because the relevant question is not whether they're strictly necessary, but whether they facilitate it, as magazines of any capacity do. Yes. Can I defend my house with a 5-round magazine? Yes. Can I do a lot more with a 15-round magazine? Yes. Can I do even more with a 30-round stendo out the bottom of my Glock? Yes. Yes. Even more so. Even more so. Even more so. And they say, it is no answer that is permissible to ban the possession of handguns so as long as the possession of other firearms is allowed. And that's fair. That's fair. Stendo me harder, daddy. Yes. On the district law, the states can ban 2 or even 1-round magazines. There's no reason a semi-automatic firearm can't fire with an empty or dummy magazine so long as there's a round in the chamber. And that's true. You could have like a magazine that has no feeding capacity, but you could just bang, and then you manually load another round in and shoot it. You could do that, but that would be fucking retarded. That would be fucking retarded. I forget. What did your father call 30-round Glock magazines? A word I'm not saying on here. I take it good. Says bring back drum mags for handguns. Yes, the Trommel mag lives on. And they say bans would also permit states to effectively eliminate semi-automatic guns and require manual reloading. And they say, in fact, under the district, meaning DC's view, the state could just directly outlaw semi-automatic firing mechanisms because by itself, that's a harmless component of a firearm. That's true. They could ban gas operation. They could ban gas operating. They could ban operating rods. They could ban recoil systems. And they say, for that matter, modern cartridges aren't necessary for firing a gun either. And they could say, the Second Amendment could be applied to things that are strictly necessary. So states could ban cartridges so long as musket balls remained a legal alternative. And technically, that's true. The funny thing is, these states would 100% do that. These states would 100% say, well, you have one round, good enough. And they say the more sensible view is that magazines of all sizes, shapes, and colors, chat, like other core components, are arms that are covered by the Second Amendment's plain text. Yeah. Let me point out here, a magazine is necessary to make a meaningful an individual's right to carry a handgun. And any components integral to firearms operation, like magazines, fit comfortably within arms. Wait, hold on here. It's a word I won't let you make towers from. That's not true. You can make your towers. I don't stop towers. Yes, what else am I to wrap my handguns in? Newspapers? Now they go on to talk about the common ubiquitous nature of magazines. And it says the relevance of the common use inquiry. They point out here that ultimately, whether an arm is in common use is irrelevant to the textual inquiry of whether you can regulate arms-bearing conduct. And they say, which reduces to whether the instrument is one a person might useth in wrath to cast or strike at another, or whether it generally facilitates armed self-defense. So, anyway, people are claiming the common use inquiry only comes into play in the next step, where Bruin's test, are there sufficient historical analogs? So they point out that courts are really divided on the common use inquiry. There's no consensus. That's true. And here we can see these cases. The big one, Bevis versus City of Naperville. We covered this one. So all of you out there, Illinois bros, you've been seen. I remember you. Much love. Much love to the Americans behind enemy lines tonight. Whether you're in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Illinois, California, Oregon, or Washington, our thoughts are with you. Our thoughts are with you tonight. So, and they say that Bruin's somewhat ambiguous at this point. Well, yeah, because it hadn't been sorted out yet. And they say this apparent tension is resolved by recognizing there are distinct common inquiries at each step. And they point out at the beginning of this, Supreme Court has said the sorts of weapons protected are those in common use. Heller, citing Miller. Remember, chat, Miller, United States versus Miller. Miller was a bank robber who was dead by the time his NFA case came to the Supreme Court. Nobody argued on his behalf. And the Supreme Court said that weapons had to have a military use. And a sawed-off shotgun did not have a military use, which is funny because we literally just got done. It was in the 30s, so World War I happened. And a sawed-off shotgun would be an amazing tool in a trench. Absent like an MP-18 or a Luger with a drum magazine on it, a shotgun would be an amazingly powerful weapon. Although ultimately, like if you're in the trench, like actually probably the best thing to carry is like a sack full of grenades, because that'd probably be the best weapon to carry in a trench raid. Just saying. We'll get back to that. And it says the Second Amendment protects weapons that are in common use. And it says, we take that to mean an instrument must be designed or at least somewhat commonly used as a weapon to qualify as an arm covered by the Second Amendment. So while you can bludgeon somebody with a taxidermy marmot or beat them with a nonstick frying pan, a ban on stuffed rodents and regulations on Teflon cookware do not implicate the Second Amendment as a threshold matter because they're not designed as weapons. This is fucking... I love this. I love this, chat. This is based. Absolutely based, chat.
Was this story based? Yes.
Absolutely based here. Absolutely based. And they say if the instrument is the type of thing that generally facilitates self-defense, which he said is commonly explained magazines are, then it is in common enough use as an arm to receive some protection. This is so fucking based. This is so based. Absolutely based. Too many choices. I'm not saying Miller didn't give the court any notice. That was some of the stuff they decided on their own. Miller was an absolutely awful fucking decision. Yes, I agree. Blue Maria Doc. Yes, this was definitely written by a white man. Probably written by a white man who's a young boomer or old Gen Xer. Because isn't it in give us the marmot, Lebowski. Isn't that it in there? That was a marmot. They say the next step of the analysis, when is in such common use that is no longer unusual, and ranks among the most popular arms possessed by law-abiding citizens. Let's call that ubiquitous to disambiguate the distinct meanings of common use. He says, by that virtue alone, it cannot be banned outright because there's no historical precedent for a ban on ubiquitous arms. And it said, Heller made clear that any historical tradition of firearms bans extends only to the dangerous, unusual weapons, like short-barreled shotguns and fully automatic machine guns, which is once again, chat, why I don't think we're ever getting machine guns. And notice the Sixth Circuit, as of this, recently, has said a machine gun ban is consistent with the nation's historical tradition of prohibiting dangerous and unusual weapons, which sucks. That also means like explosives are going to be tough as well, chat. So it's rough. It's rough out there. And they point out that they cite another case, U.S. v. Mitchell. I've read this one because actually it was pretty interesting. After Heller, the courts of appeals have uniformly held that machine guns are dangerous, unusual, and not in common use. So they point out if magazines are in common and ubiquitous use, the Second Amendment inquiry is over. Not only does the Second Amendment apply, but the district court's outright ban violates the Second Amendment. And you have to have a historical tradition of banning arms, extended only those that are dangerous and unusual. So there you go. And because arms in ubiquitous use are by definition not unusual, they cannot be banned outright. This is just like fucking woo! Whoa! This is good. Guy is laying pipe here. This is so based. Yes, I want to be able to buy great value C4. I agree. I should be able to have a box full of Amatol in my garage. They said the handguns are the most popular weapon chosen by Americans. That alone was sufficient to hold a complete ban on them was invalid. Yes. Yes. And they say magazines that, they point out that if you're holding more than 10 rounds are common and ubiquitous. So that brings into the question of whether they're common and ubiquitous. I love this. Yes, they are. They facilitate armed defense, and there are hundreds or millions of them. Yes, I could print them out on my 3D printer. I can print out 30-round Glock mags right now. I can print out AR-15 magazines. I can print out all kinds of shit. And they said, as an updated analysis, Americans have owned some 542 million rifle and handgun magazines that held over 10 rounds. That's something I buy. I don't even think this number is high enough. I don't even think this number is high enough here. I don't think this number is high enough, really. Because, there's an estimate of 717 million high-capacity magazines out there, chat, between 1990 and 2021. Oh, yeah. But remember, I think the numbers for, semi-automatic rifles that are AR-15 patterned, AK patterned, meaning AK, the AR-15, AK-47, AK-74 pattern, Century Series AKs, G3 pattern rifles, FN FAL pattern rifles, and then you could throw in AUGs, AR-1, well, really AUGs and AR-180s would be all derived from that, but any AR-180 derived pattern, SCARs, FN-2000s, all of that, I bet you're looking at probably 40 to 50, honestly, at this point now, I bet you're getting close to 75 to 100 million semi-automatic rifles in America. Just the amount of AR-15s alone that have been made, I guarantee you, obviously there's a shitload of AKs, but really it's AR-15s, and I can print an AR-15 receiver on my fucking printer. I think there's probably close to 75 to 100 million fucking semi-automatic rifles in America. Easily. Yep, Mini 14s, M1As, FAMAS. There's only there's less than 100 FAMASs in America, so I'm not counting that. So, yes, Control Pew. Yes, can't stop the signal. That's right, chat. And the catalog. P90s. Yeah, but I don't really. Yeah, P90s, MP5s. Sure. P-Dub says, I want an R4. Well, okay. Yeah, we'll throw in Galil's too, but yeah. Oh, I know. I'm memeing. It's at very least 100 million. Yeah, but I don't know how much more than that. But think about all the shit that's out there, dude. There's all kinds of stuff now. So too many choices. MGs are only common because of the synthetic ban. I understand, but remember, you're not I've said this. You are not I wish it would happen, but even with 9 Clarence Thomases on the Supreme Court, you ain't getting the NFA taken away. We're not getting free machine. The best we might get is 922.0 getting eliminated and the Hughes Act being repealed. You're going to have to pay a tax and you're going to have to register machine guns. That's never going away. You're not going to be able just to go down to the gun shop and buy a 50 cal and slap it on the back of your Hilux or your Tacoma. We're also not going to be able, I'm not going to get grenade launchers for free. None of that's going to happen, chat. There are limitations, and I hate to break it to you, but that's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. I can gas you up and give you the answer you want to hear, or I can tell you the answer of reality. I prefer to give you the real answer. So, let's see here. Not with that attitude. V2 says, I got to include Galil's in that list, otherwise I'm anti-Semitic. Well, why aren't you what about Valmet? You didn't include the Valmet, Sean! Yes, I did include a lot of things. So, but no, this is absolutely fucking base what's going on here, chat. I love this. I read this earlier, and this is so amazing. These account for roughly half of the magazines in America, and there are more than 100 million of them in this country by most conservative estimates, which is true. There's over 100 million of them. There may be some capacity above which magazines are not in common use, but that capacity surely isn't 10. Guys, even 75 round drum magazines, like Richard Gruber comes on all the time with his nice I forget, does he say it's a Chinese drum? Like a 75 round AK drum magazine, dude. Those fuckers are everywhere. Beta mags. The twin drummed AR-15 magazines. Those are everywhere. Guys who are now running the Fight Light little saws, or people who are trying to run belt-fed AR-15 uppers, are figuring out how to attach those 200-round big fucking plastic saw magazines to those, or running the 100-round nut sacks on them. Like, there's all kinds of shit out there, chat. There's all kinds of shit. Oh, the Lima 6 belt feds. They're set up so you can run nut sacks off of them. Yeah, coffin magazines. Yeah, like the Sight Spectres or the Suomis. Yeah, coffin mags aren't as common. There are the Schmeiser coffin mags and the ATI mags, but those aren't. At that point, like, I'd rather have a fucking drum if you're going to run those. So, they say though, they say though that the non-peer-reviewed survey. Oh, Judge Destiny's here. Is that peer-reviewed? It's methodologically unreliable. Well, they point out the problem here is that there is no contrary authority from not even a horribly biased source that will say 11 plus round magazines are less ubiquitous, because it's a plain counterfactual. Yeah, not even the Giffords Foundation could do that. To conclude they're anything other than common, you would have to ignore every study out there. You would also have to avoid consorting with the third of Americans who personally own firearms, or the nearly half of Americans who live in a household with one. Just ask about any one of them, and they'll tell you 12, 15, 17-round magazines are the norm, rather than any kind of outlier. And they point out that there are, the Ninth and the Seventh Circuits start from the wrong premise that magazines are not arms at all, which is wrong. The DC Circuit has held their arms, and the First and Second Circuits have assumed that they are. So yeah, this is gonna have to go to the Supreme Court at some point. But remember, the Supreme Court's not allowing gun cases to get anywhere. So, they point out though that, the district court or DC tries to fight this, but they just lose. They just absolutely fucking lose. Absolutely lose here. We do see some stuff here. They show Snope versus Brown. This was the Maryland assault weapons ban that did not make certiorari, but Kavanaugh wrote about the denial, and he said, given that millions of Americans own AR-15s and a significant majority allow possession of these rifles, petitioners have a strong argument that AR-15s are in common use and that the bans violate the Second Amendment. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on here, chat. This goes on and on for a while. They point out that this is all they just beat down the fucking court here. They beat it down, they kick ass. There's no historical tradition of banning arms in common and ubiquitous use. They point out that we've never done that. And they said, even if we're free to second guess Heller's assessment after a fresh review, the District of Columbia has not carried its burden of any historical analog banning bearable arms that are as common as 11 plus round magazines, nor a historical tradition of it. The district court highlights bans on trap guns, but those are not bearable arms at all, and they weren't particularly common. And trap guns are guns you could wire up to a door, and it's a trap. You open the door, boom, it kills you. Now, normally what people would do is they take like a normal shotgun and tie string to it, but they made guns that were kind of like deconstructed guns that were very simple that you could put together and were cheap. And yeah, it had a tripwire triggered by an unsuspecting person. And they say to bear it is to render something other than a trap gun. Yeah, and that's the thing. You would be able to take a trap. You could if you had to in a pinch, but like you're not carrying a trap gun into battle. Now, they also point out that the District of Columbia says the restrictions on gunpowder storage. But they point out those laws didn't ban anything. So they're not relevant. And they point out how Bowie knives were regulated and carried in the late 19th century. But no state banned Bowie knives outright. They point out that, the why and the how regulations burn the right to bear arms are central to a Second Amendment inquiry. And none of these analogies work because they fail at the how. The only actual ban it could point to is non-bearable trap guns, so that ban doesn't work. Now, notice what the court says here. We do not hold that they may never be regulated or can't be regulated at all. Only that cannot be banned. So you might have to register your fucking magazines, which is interesting. And they say this distinction is why nothing in our analysis is at odds with the court's opinion in a different case where there's cert pending. And they said they upheld the age-based firearm registration and licensing statutes requiring individuals 18 to 20 to receive parental permission before they can possess a firearm. Think about that. You're a fucking adult in every other way. But because it's the Second Amendment, you're not an adult. That is not an equal application there. At all. Rabbit Stick says a trap gun is actually used for clay pigeons. Nowadays, yes, but at the time of Bruin, a trap gun was not for that. A trap gun would be a gun you would use as a booby trap. So yes, nowadays, a trap gun has a different meaning. Yes. Katie says, Sean, why are you what? Why do you suck? I don't know. I've never figured that out. They point out, though, that a person was an infant or a minor in the eyes of the law until the age of 21, which I think is horse shit. But hey. Yes, you can sign up and go to war. As a 20-year-old, you could be in charge of a fire team of 4 other guys. God forbid, you might be a squad leader of an infantry unit. You could be in charge of a squad of infantrymen, all loaded down with explosives and automatic weapons. But God forbid, you want to go plink at the range with an AR-15 if your mommy won't buy it for you. Yeah, Texas ANCAP is correct. Trap has an even more different meaning now. JK says, is it like a trap house? No. So a trap gun would be, hold on here. We'll do a trap gun real quick. So like a trap gun is literally like it's a, ooh, we don't need this here. Need to make that not as thick and opaque. So like you've got a door, you got a doorway, and you got your doorknob right here. And sitting on like a chair, like this is a common way this stuff was done. You have a barreled action, basically. You have a barrel with like a rudimentary trigger on it. It's got no sights. You just kind of line it up roughly at the doorway. And from here, you might like have a string on a pulley or something like that. But the string goes around everything. So when the door opens, it goes blah, blah, blam, and that shoots a person in the face. So that's what a trap gun is. Although, KJ, I think you're trying to be like, is it a trap house? Yes. 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 Stronger penis again, chat! Please pull up Brandon's video thumbnail. No, because I don't want to get this fucking nuked. So, trying not to. But that's what a trap gun is. That's a very common way of doing it. And yes, they are illegal. Don't fucking do them. Your state probably makes it illegal, and it should be illegal because it kills fucking kids and firemen. That's why they're not legal anymore. And you're also defending an unoccupied structure. There are times where you could like supposedly use one to defend an occupied structure, but it's like, it's not really going to work. So they just point out this is all horse shit. No one cares. you guys are fucking awful. And it ends. We get to the ending here, and the ending is based. And they say, for these reasons above, we reverse and vacate the convictions. They point out, remember, the United States government, so the DOJ, has conceded we should vacate the conviction. Though it maintains the remainder of his conviction should be affirmed. Notice that. They're saying the rest of it was legal. But you know what they're pointing out? Nope. Now, here's the thing here that, the district alone argues that they, will not do this right. The district has said it has no indication it intends to suspend enforcement efforts. So it appears police officers will continue to enforce the ban via arrest and confiscations with the U.S. simply refusing to prosecute, leaving the issue capable of repetition yet evading review, an exception to the mootness doctrine. And he says, third, we have no fair assurance the United States will not resume offenses if, for instance, there is a change in the administration. Because, yes, all it takes is the fucking Tellerico administration or the Buttigieg administration, and they'll do whatever the fuck they want. So it's not going to be moot. But they don't address the rest of it, but they vacate everything. And then, yes, Blackburn Grigsby, they go for 30 pages, which we're not doing. But absolutely base news out of the fucking District of Columbia tonight, chat. So there's a fucking dub for the good guys. That's all I can say. So, Johan says for $5, did you know there are no laws against your dog carrying concealed or open carrying? Clyde can hold your gat. Yes, I can put a gun on Clyde's back. Yes, although Clyde's a little guy. I don't know what he would carry comfortably. Like, I don't think I could put, like, the 357 on him. Maybe I could put, like, the Star BM, the little 9mm I have, or maybe the Tokarev. Because that's kind of, it's light. It's not light, but it's thin and, like, overall small. I think Clyde could probably carry the Tokarev. Or maybe I would have to get, like, a Ruger, like, LCP or something like that for him. Get Clyde a PPK. Yes. Aw. Have Clyde carry your Jimenez. That's a little heavy for him. That's a little heavy for Clyde. But, yeah, that could go on there. Also, hold on one second, chat. I hear click-clacks. You want to come here, Clyde? He just walks up and he's like, he was sleeping next to 2.0. His hair is all messed up. And he's like, He mlems now for some reason. But I guess no Clyde right now. Clyde, come here. Come here, Clyde. Come on, bud. I see your tail wagging, you little fucker. You're like 15, 20 feet away, but I can see your tail wagging. Come on, buddy. Okay, I guess no Clyde tonight, chat. Sweet 2 says, Clyde's a good boy. Don't involve me in your shenanigans. Yeah. Well, thank you, Sweet. Yeah, just get fucked, fat man! Yes, I'm sure he does. All right, chat. We need to catch up on some things here. Blind Daughter says, did you hear about Vancouver handing over everybody's land rights to the native band of Indians without property owners being informed? Suffer. No, that sounds hilarious. Hold on. Vancouver hands over land rights. Oh, okay. I'll have to take a look at that. Okay. Thunder Dragon says, what do I think of the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling about immigration stuff? We're going to go over that tomorrow night with Ryan Mullally. 9:30, chat. We're going to go over that. Spud Gun for £2 sterling. The King Sterling says, I've sent you another funny on Twitter. Well, thank you. We'll take a look at that here in a second. Zexarian says, Oregon, Ohio. Yes. Yep. That is a place. Das Boot says, you get to meet famous people at the mental hospital. I'm sure Elvis Presley is at a local one. Yes, like Homer. Homer Simpson met Michael Jackson at a mental hospital. JDK Buck for 7 months says Scalia was awesome. Yes, he was. Gone, but never forgetty, chat. Never forgetty. And once again, thank you, Erica. Spud Gun says, happy birthday, Sean, for £2 sterling. Thank you. Amateur Iconoclast for $5 says, alles gut zum Geburtstag, Sean. Does that mean happy birthday? I don't know. Great Loner's been a member for 6 months. Says, I hope World War III kicks off just so San Francisco goes away. Yeah. Squizgar, been a member for 20 months. Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. It says, no, the young nibbas have moved on to ARPs, AR pistols. Interesting. Okay. All right, chat. So we got a couple stories here left real quick we're going to knock out. And we'll be done under 2. Well, I don't know if we'll be done under 2 hours, but we're gonna hit it hard, chat. We're gonna hit it hard. So we'll get this last thing. Well, actually, I'll get to real quick here. It says CA 4741 says, have you seen the laws about age verification for using certain OSs in California, Colorado, and Brazil? I have seen the California one, man. That's gonna be so weird. That this stuff is getting out of control, man. It is getting out of control. We're going to have to look at that one. And thank you for the $5. And then Radcon has her for $10. Thank you. So it's not so fun fact. Per ATF service members, legal state of residence is per your orders. So service members, your legal state of residence per your orders. So even if you own a house and pay taxes in Florida, if your orders are to Cali, FFLs in Florida can't legally sell to you. Oh, that sucks. God, that's fucking awful. That really sucks. That really, really sucks. Oh, well, that's no good. That's no good. That's a bummer. That's a bummer. Yeah, the WF is pushing shit again. Yes. Katie says, oh, I thought tonight we just shifted Best Buy. All right. Well, this is actually pretty interesting here, guys. We'll be covering more of the Marc Sanchez saga. Remember, Marc Sanchez is the former USC quarterback, played for the Jets, now is a play-by-play guy for NBC or somebody, I think it was. And he was in Indianapolis, and he found a guy. Well, he was stumbling around. A guy was working on delivering food to a hotel. Pulls the guy out of the truck and starts stabbing him and attacking him. And the guy pulls out his knife and starts stabbing Marc Sanchez. Hold on. God, that was a loud thud. That was my fault. I ordered something and it came and I didn't notice it came. So I ordered it again and it's now she's like, how much of this do we need? I'm like, we're probably set for life now. So if you guys don't remember, Marc Sanchez, this was what happened to him. He's on camera stumbling around as he's going out here. This guy's driving his truck to go deliver shit. And we see very quickly, Marc Sanchez is walking around, going to bars, getting, this is Marc Sanchez wandering off. He walks past the guy. And as he walks around, he then turns around and he walks down the street, making his way downtown, walking fast, paces fast and homebound. Do. Then he walks back down the hallway, or he walks back down the alleyway. And he then starts doing some weird shit with people. He starts running down the alleyway towards people, which doesn't make any sense. He goes and fights a 70-year-old man. And if you guys remember, Marc Sanchez comes stumbling by with a stab wound to his gut, and the guy stabbed him up. And stabbed him up pretty good, if you can remember. He's leaking. So Marc Sanchez is facing a bunch of criminal charges, but he's also facing a lawsuit from this guy. And check out what may have happened here based on the lawsuit, the civil suit. The civil lawsuit suggests that Marc Sanchez has been under the influence of drugs. Oh, buddy. It's not looking good. There's some concern. There's some concern he may have been like, when I was reading some other places, that he had been on some fentanyl and some other drugs. That he was also just blitzed out his mind from drinking because one of the hotels gave him a ton of stuff. But they point out that they think he might have been under the influence of cocaine, marijuana, fentanyl, and or alcohol, which sounds like he knows how to party. And yeah, that would cause him to want to fight. So yeah, I think there's going to be some stuff coming out there. Mark is going to be, So we're going to take a look at that. Keep that in mind, chat. This is, this is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting. Marc Sanchez is fucked, though. Like, he beat the fuck out of this guy. And he had no reason to do so. So he'd better hope to pray to God he can get a good fucking deal. So, yes. Mark George Floyd Sanchez, yes. Oh, so yeah, that's an interesting thing there. Now, moving on to, I guess, actually the last thing we're going to get to tonight, chat. We're going to get to the last thing tonight, and this is something that's going on in current news, and it's the military action against Iran. And this is you guys haven't seen it before. The United States came across the Iranian frigate, the IRIS Dina. And it's a frigate that the Iranian Navy was using. And the USS Charlotte, which is a Los Angeles class attack sub, found it. And it showed up, and USS Charlotte, it's a little bit older. But it is a Los Angeles class attack sub. This is it back in the day. Kind of rolled up on it, and rolled up on it. And it's funny because what you may think as a frigate is not necessarily what they have as a frigate. This is not like an Oliver Hazard Perry class frigate would be a lot bigger than this. But this is what the Iranians call a frigate. Well, the Charlotte found it and proceeded to break off an ADCAP torpedo in its asshole. So, as it goes here, you can see this is the boat, and you can see on this boat, obviously this end's the front end, this is the rear, the fantail, and here we go. Skaboosh. So yes, since the Falklands War, this is the first time a ship has been torpedoed. So, it's the same class as the USS Dallas in the Hunt for Red October. Yes. The Los Angeles class has been around for like decades, man. Yes, the USS Dallas was the Los Angeles class. That's why they all have the names after cities, like Los Angeles, Toledo. Like, there's a bunch of them. But they've been around since 1972. If you guys didn't know that. Like, and unlike a lot of different things we have out there, there are a shitload of Los Angeles class submarines. Like, there's a whole list of them, chat. Like the first couple are gone. There's like the first 11 are already gone, and they were decommissioned a long time ago, but like 15 years ago. But like, look at all these fucking Los Angeles class attack submarines we have. All of them. Look at all these. Look at all these fuckers we have now. Look at all these. You know, and the different things. Like, there's a whole list of them. Whole list of them. Now, people are upset because, well, it's a boat, and a lot of the Iranian guys drowned. Why? Well, because it's out in the middle of the fucking Indian Ocean off the coast of Sri Lanka. And the submarine didn't go rescue them. And people are screaming, this is a war crime. Well, hey, we are going to talk about, well, what makes a war crime? Remember, there are things out there, and, you know, we have to go to, and once again, we go to our good friend here, the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, which kind of highlights the things that are out there. Now, this is the 2023 manual. I've tried to ask a JAG, like, there's 2 JAGs I know, if they could give me a copy of, like, the updated one, but they won't. I wish I could find it. But anyways, hold on, chat. 1 second. So, no, we're all good. Sorry, chat. But this covers everything, guys. And it's, you know, all the kind of things in here. So we have to get to, you know, what do we need to get to? Well, let's get to, well, we don't actually, not naval warfare. We need to go back, chat. We need to go back here. I think it's page 714. No, damn it. Where the hell is it? Okay, yeah, I went too far, chat. We went too far. So here you go. Like, how do you take care of people in these situations? What do you do? What do you look at here? Well, there's a spot in this that actually covers this stuff. Their Law of War Manual talks about what you do for wounded, sick, shipwrecked, dead, and their medical services. I think we talked about this stuff with the Venezuela strikes, but we have to go to some of it. You know, so how does this work? Search, collection, and protection of the wounded, sick, and shipwrecked. Well, there's stuff you have to think about here. You know, what does it say that they have to do? Well, there's stuff you can't do. You can't just machine gun everybody floating in the ocean to death. You know, parties to a conflict shall, without delay, take all possible measures to search and collect for the wounded on land or to protect them against pillage and ill treatment. You have to, okay, but there are limitations to that. So what are some of the limitations? Well, there's some big ones here. There are practical limitations on the obligations to do this. So what are the practical limitations? You have to judge what is possible and what extent you could commit their personnel these duties. Okay, well, there's a risk of harm. We're in the middle of a fucking war right now. For example, performing rescue and recovery, you don't need to place your lives at undue risk in an effort to search for, collect, or protect the dead and wounded. They point out here that, you know, recovering a body from a minefield or entering into a disabled, and then, like, if you knock out a tank, you don't have to go in and get somebody. Similarly, a naval ship doesn't need to increase its risk to threats by slowing down or placing their ship dead in the water in order to recover military personnel. And then, is it a military necessity? You know, is it possible during a fast tempo operation? In other cases, it may exceed the abilities of the force and its medical personnel. Like it's a nuclear submarine. Where the hell are you going to go? Where the hell are you going to go? Where are you going to put these people? There are limitations. There are limitations. But you can call the civilian authorities nearby to come collect and raise the alarm to help. And then this is where this comes in. A lot of people have been citing this picture on Twitter, and they don't understand what this is about. These are two U-boats. And this is 1942. It's two U-boats, U-156 and U-507. And I know this because I'm a fucking sped about the U-boats, and also because it's World War II, so it's therefore based to know this fact. But this is also what's called the Laconia incident. What happened here was the U-156 encountered a British steamer out off the coast of West Africa, and it torpedoed it. Well, it turns out it was a ship full of Italian prisoners of war, and obviously some British soldiers. And they were taking the boat all the way over to the Western Hemisphere because that's where you put all the prisoners of war across the ocean. So these U-boats started picking people up. And what did they do immediately at that point? They radioed for help and said, we have a bunch of shipwrecked people. We are going to bring them to a neutral port in West Africa. We are going to fly under the Red Cross, which they did. They had a big old Red Cross flag they flew under. We are transporting people who are shipwrecked. Well, at some point, the U.S. Air Force, the Army Air Force found out about this, and they sent out planes to investigate. And they sent out a couple of anti-submarine planes to go look, and they call back, and they're like, yeah, hey, it looks like the decks are full of people. They've got a Red Cross flag up. They're hauling survivors. And they were told, machine gun the motherfuckers. So they attacked the two U-boats, and the U-boats dived. Well, there weren't any room inside the U-boat for people, so they dived. And then they surfaced after that was over, and they hopped back on. They saved as many people as they could again and started going again. And they ran to another Allied air patrol who attacked them again, and they dived. And they said, fuck it, we're out of here. And some Free French forces came and saved them. Who was left? A lot of people fucking died in this incident, the Laconia incident. There were a lot of people who died. A lot of people. Basically, everybody who survived was a British crew member or British soldier. It was pretty rough. These people all fucking died. Out of the 2,700 people on this cruise, this steamer, 1,000 survived. So 1,600 people died, and 1,400 of them were Italian prisoners of war who were fighting for the Axis. So what happened here? Oh, I wish U-Boat was multiplayer chat. We'd have all kinds of fucking things. The AK guy's the only guy running for his race? Fucking based. So anyway, what happened from here? Well, this turned out to be a very interesting thing. Because prior to this, German ships, if you were an unaccompanied steamer, so not if you were in a convoy, but if you were an unaccompanied boat just chugging along on your own, and the Germans decided to sink you, they operated under the prize rules, which means they would surface. They would tell you, we intend to sink you. Stop. We'll let you get off the boat. Put some supplies in your boat. Here's go that way to shore. Good luck. And then they would turn around and torpedo the boat, or they would use their deck gun and sink the boat. After this, what was known as the Laconia incident, the Germans engaged in unrestricted submarine warfare, meaning we're not even going to talk. We're just going to fuck you up. Karl Donitz, the head of the German Navy, by the end of the war, who then became the new Führer, was tried for war crimes because he was the man who, he was the submarine leader. He was in charge of all the submarines throughout the war. They were his boys. They were his thing. And he took care of them. And also, some of you might say, why is the Kriegsmarine taking over for Hitler? The Kriegsmarine was some of the most devout Nazis out there. They were in it till the end. He was tried for war crimes for unrestricted submarine warfare. Karl Donitz brought the Laconia incident, and his attorneys were able to prove that the Allies committed a fucking war crime by machine gunning and attacking people under the Red Cross. More importantly, Karl Donitz served a subpoena on somebody. He served a subpoena on a gentleman known as Chester Nimitz. And Chester Nimitz, if you don't know who he is, guys, was an admiral. And he wasn't just any admiral. Chester Nimitz was the head of the United States Navy in the Pacific. And he led them to victory throughout the war. Winner at the Battle of Midway, all the way through to the end. He served a subpoena on Chester Nimitz and said, I want you to come in and testify about unrestricted submarine warfare. So instead, he gave written responses to questions. He's like, I ain't fucking doing that. And the U.S. government's like, we're not doing that. We're not going to talk about that. So he came in and basically said in written responses, yeah, totally, that's what we would have done. And we engaged in unrestricted submarine warfare from the start of World War II. So, yeah. So basically, Karl Donitz got he won his case. He was found guilty of things, but he didn't receive a severe sentence. They didn't hang him. They didn't imprison him for a long term. Karl Donitz basically walked out. Based. So, yeah, no war crimes were committed, but he was considered a very naughty boy. So, yes, that admiral limits. Yes, this is based. Yes. So, Karl Donitz. No. No. So, okay, I'm gone. This autism is too retarded. Well, I'm just getting to the fact of talking about the law here, chat. Sorry. Most of you stuck around, though. 50 of you left. I'll take it. So, prize rules were also thrown out in World War I because the British started taking advantage of it. Yep. They would start doing things like having, merchant ships armed with cannons. And they also had Q ships, which were like decoy cargo ships that would just all of a sudden a bunch of guns would show up when they found the submarine and they would sink it. So yeah, there are a lot of problems. So thought here because I enjoyed it. Yeah. So just so you know, when people are showing all this stuff, but we're not doing fucking prize rules. We're fighting motherfuckers and we're sinking motherfucking boats. For example, the most famous thing the British did during the Falklands War, the Conqueror, the HMS Conqueror, sunk the Admiral Belgrano, which was the flagship of the Argentine Navy. They sunk it, and they hit it with torpedoes. They were a submarine, and they didn't rescue anybody. They left that to the Argentine Navy, and that's in the South Atlantic, where you fucking freeze to death, and a lot of Argentine sailors died because of that. But yeah, it was a thing, and they left them, and they just came back, and they're like, check this. They're like, check us out, yo. We're having the time of our life. They came back flying a fucking, Jolly Roger. Yes. So the USS Charlotte will come back, and yeah, this is the Belgrano going down, and yeah. So there you go. There you go, chat. So when people are bringing it up, this is what people are talking about. A lot of them don't know what they're talking about, but they're also kind of kit bashing the Laconia incident. They're like, well, the Nazis did so much. But it's like, yeah. And then the Nazis immediately stopped doing that and just sunk every fucking thing they found. After that, it was unrestricted submarine warfare. Captains did not help people. They were forbidden from doing that at that point. So there's an entire, lore there, which I thought is kind of important because people are citing this thing of like, well, the Germans were doing it. It's like, do you even know what the fuck you're talking about? And for most people, no, they don't. They don't know. So, apparently Iran just executed one of their generals. Yes. Yes, it is. So, and that's it for us tonight, chat. But I just wanted to include that because I've been seeing it. A bunch of people, like, Probably 3 or 4 people messaged me, and I'm like, that's a lot on the same topic. And they're like, is this a war crime? What's this thing about the Nazis? And I'm like, it's internet. That's law. It's important to know. It's important to know, chat. And just remember, chat, international law isn't really a thing. International law is who's got the biggest stick. That's international law. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, we're all wrapped up here, chat. So, yes. And immediately after that, an Iranian ship, another naval ship, was like, they went up to Sri Lanka and said, we want to intern here. Basically, they surrendered the boat to the Sri Lankan government. And it's probably going to stay there for the duration of the hostilities. Because they're like, we're not getting fucking killed. So they just basically surrendered to the Sri Lankan government. So, yeah. That is the thing. It's called being interned. You could voluntarily intern as well. So, with that said, chat, let's catch up on some comments here. Garfield's Bizarre Adventures for $5 says, hail, Sean. Hello. Says, do you think Tarl, which is Styxhexenhammer, will conduct a blood ritual for Stolas in order to avoid the consequences of his recent life choices? Gonna try, probably. Probably gonna try. Yes. Thank you for the super chat. Hope you're doing well. Radcon Hazard says, Control Pew chat. Can't stop the signal. That's right. Support Control Pew and the catalog if you get the chance, guys. And speaking of that, we got our sponsors tonight to go through. And one of our sponsors, yes, guys, MAF Corporation, maf-arms.com. 10% off your wind chimes with the promo code POCCRIM. We've also got the dragonstreasure.com for your tea, soap, and coffee. Not coffee brand coffee, but just coffee. No gas blueberry cobbler coffee there. No tangerine coffee, which I can't imagine some of that shit that Jeremy's selling actually tastes good, but I digress. Use the promo code CRIMINAL for 10% off. Don't be like Meme Copium. Don't cope. Don't cope. Save money. And then chat, last but not least, Stoney's Bar at 1580 Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota, chat. Get your hog ready, chat. It's becoming that time of the year. Start getting your motorcycle ready because you're going to be cranking your hog out at Stoney's patio before you know it. It's going to be bike night once again on Thursdays. The home of the $2.50 cans. Stoney's. The premier biker bar 30 years running. So. Joe Smosh is cranking my what? You heard me. You heard me. Oh. And then Buzz CJC says, since the Second Amendment can be violated freely, can we bring back poll taxes and tell them to spin on it when they cry? I mean, at this point, I wish we would. I wish we would. It's only fair. It's only fair. Uh-oh, Clyde's in trouble. Clyde went outside. He's singing his song tonight, apparently. Johan for $5 says, we already covered this. Yes, Clyde carrying a gun. Yes. Radcon says, I train 18 to 20-year-olds to operate nuclear reactors, but they are too irresponsible to smoke, drink, dip, or own any non-military gun. Make it make sense. I can't. I cannot do that. Don't tell Clyde to run, chat. No. Then I have to go get him. The Buzz, again, is saying for $5. So how do we get rid of the ICU poison pill? No such requirement is in the text of the Second Amendment or intended. I don't know how we get rid of it. It's kind of cooked into the Bruin framework at this point. I think it's good. And I don't know how else we get rid of it. Good question, though. I wish I knew the answer. EDW Raptor for $5 says 3 Australians were on the USS Charlotte. Make those diggers great again. Yes, make those scoopers. Just like Meme Copium out there, great again. The Razor's Edge has been a member for 2 months. Says correction. It's what Iran calls a frigate. Yes. That is correct. Radcon Hazard. Ooh. Buddy. Apparently somebody's got a little pass with one of the Los Angeles Boats, says, fuck the 771. She's cursed. It took Hillary 3 times to christen her. We also warned them not to come to the school. Oh, no. Oh, no. Then Radcon Hazard says, fucking landlubber wogs trying to tell us shellbacks how to war. Yes, shellbacks are submariners. You were not aware. Meme out there sipping for Ralph Mail's girl. Yeah, I saw that. Sandy Copium. Yes, Sandy Copium. Meme went to New Zealand? Ooh, what happened? The F-35 got a kill. Yes, it did. An Israeli F-35 shot down a Yak-130 light aircraft, which is sad because that means the Fat Amy got an airplane. The F-22 still has not claimed an air-to-air victory yet. And it's sad. And there are F-22s in Saudi Arabia right now. Like, I got to feel bad for the F-22 pilots. They've got to just sit there crying, getting ready to kill themselves because the F-22 has not gotten an air-to-air kill yet. It's sad. It's so sad, Chad. It's so sad. They're doing the reverse of the F-15 being 106-3. Nope. They are just 0-0. Yes. The F-22 is still blue ball. Yes, it is. Yes, your car and an F-22 have as many air-to-air kills. Meme says, switching to my mod account to ban these defamatory posts. Suffer, Meme. Suffer. Don't Bother None says, what in the hell was a Yak doing in the sky? Okay, it's not... Like, a Yak-130 is not like an old-timey plane. The Yak-130 is... It was a joint project between Yakolev and Aramaki to... I think they call it the 338 is what it's actually known as when it came out. But it's actually the M346, not the 338. But this is the Aramaki 346. I thought it was a 338, but it's also known as the Yak 130. So it's a lightweight, it's a light attack trainer. It was also kind of like in the running to be like, competition for the Tucano at one point. The problem is this needs an actual runway. You can't just like pure steel plank for the Tucano. Anyways, that's what it was he shot down. Not like a Yak 9 or something. They killed balloons. Those don't count. The F-35 took out the newest Russian jet, didn't it? No. It did not take out an Su-57 or an Su-35 or like an Su-30 MKI or a MiG-29 MKI or anything like that. So, Spughead says, I missed you wishing me a happy birthday. Sorry. 50 viewers disappearing from the stream was from my U-boat strikes. Thanks, Beam. Asshole. Don't Bother Nut says that was an animal joke. I'm sorry. Not see it. Squizgar for $5 says, breaking. Tony Gonzalez drops out of the race. Brandon Herrera steps in. Based. Good luck, Brandon. Good luck. Yes, let's go, Brandon. Maybe I'll get a congressional candidate to come on my show. That'd be so much fun. Probably not going to happen, though. I'll try. So I think we're all caught up, chat. So the worst part of this conflict is that there's probably no flight-worthy F-14s left in existence. Yeah, but the Israelis attacked the F-14s last year, too. So, yeah. So. Yep, it's because they opened the ethics probe against him. Yep. He's fucked. So, it's funny because there's a bunch of fucking the non-credible defense, like NAFO homos on Twitter that have YouTube channels, they have Twitter accounts. They were all like just tap dancing over the fact that Brandon Herrera was going to lose because he says things that aren't nice. But now he's in, so suffer Anna Markey, suffer all you losers. So, Rancon says, I missed your first super chat, but you covered the topic. Oh, I did? What did I miss? Oh, yes, I can now legally confirm the USS Charlotte, a rust bucket of a 688, has scored the first sub kill since World War II. For the United States, yes, but not since World War II. The Conqueror sinking the Belgrano was the last. But yes, for the U.S., yes. And thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Oh, it's Super Iron Bob. Oh, I missed these. Says for $5, Will Stancil will never be able to take his proper throne with these two men in Minnesota. Yes, that is correct. Although maybe Obergruppenführer Stancil will eliminate them for us. The final solution to the problem, as it were. EDW Raptor says Shia LaBeouf is the new Styx, less gay and way more based. And Joe Schmo for $5 says, if Styx mixed his rum with water, lemon, and sugar, he'd be drinking grog like a true pirate. Yes, but he has a lot of teeth issues, so he probably has to cut back on the sugar. And then Objective Gestalt for $5 says, I used to watch Styx videos years ago in the first Trump term. Kind of shame to see him falling like this. Yeah, it is. It is a shame. It's a shame to see people crash and burn. You don't like to see it. And then Johan for $2 says, you're all caught up. You sure about that? I am now, chat. All right, we are landing the plane. I will see you guys over on Locals. That's right, chat. Potentiallycriminal.locals.com. We're going to go hang out. All the stuff we can't do here on YouTube, we're going to go hang out and do there. Promo code Ice Storm. And you can get access to the free shows. I know we haven't done a lot of those because Corey Richin, sorry. It's actually a good trial. Programming note for tomorrow. We are going to watch the rest of today's Corey Richin's trial stream starting at about 6:30. It's only like 2 hours left. We're going at 1.5 times speed because it's so agonizing at times. We'll be done pretty quick. And then at 9:30, Ryan Mullally from Natural Law will be joining us to go over the massive wins for the Trump administration in the courts. It'll be a good time. And I hope to see you guys there. Yes, there's no court tomorrow on Corey Richins either. Sweet Tooth says, had the shittiest day today. Thank you, Sean and Chad, for making it a little better. Well, I hope it is. I hope it's better for you. So, sorry to hear that. I hope it's better. Do you think we'll ever get relief from SCOTUS? Guess they'll never heard of justice delayed is justice denied. Just millions of Americans with their rights being infringed upon. Once again, the Second Amendment is the redheaded stepchild of the political world. And it probably will always be, sadly. So, with that note, chat, I will see you guys all tomorrow. And just remember until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Run like the wind, Styx. Run like the wind. Also, Styx, when they tell you to put your hands up, put your fucking hands up. Because, I 100% could see him being on a fucking police activity video, getting air conditioned by some cops somewhere. So, don't fucking kill yourself, Styx. Also, we did meet the goal tonight, chat. And the goal was Clyde will sink more Iranian ships. And yes, he will. Good night, chat. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that Kaden yelled at? Why, yes it was, he even knows he's fat.
Yes. You either strafe the red, you either get strafed under a Red Cross flag long enough, or you finally make it to Argentina. That's-